How is it that some nurses can bounce back from difficult situations quicker than others? Why is it that I, as a nurse, am drowning under the same pressure, but my coworker keeps going? Today, I'm going to be disclosing the 5 secrets to resilient nurses. Hi, guys, and welcome back to Resilient Nursing. As promised, today I'm going to be disclosing the 5 secrets to resilient nurses. If you haven't already watched our video on what resilience is versus what it's not, then after this video, please go back and watch it. I have a link right down here in the description. You won't want to miss what I have to say about what resilience truly means and how we as nurses can correct the twisted meaning of the word that some nursing leaders are using in a manner that actually harms nurses rather than supporting them. And that's not what we're about here in Resilient Nurses. We're about supporting nurses. So the 5 secrets. What makes nurses more resilient than others? How is it that some nurses can bounce back from difficult situations quicker than others? Why is it that I, as a nurse, am drowning under the same pressure? It's the same craziness going on in the unit, but my coworker keeps going. Every nurse comes to the job with different levels of resilience. It depends on how they were taught to cope with difficulties growing up. Some nurses have more practice than others overcoming adversity prior to starting the job. However, it's not really the quantity of adversity that matters in resilience. What matters more is the quality of coping skills you have developed to overcome the situations you face. There's a difference between drinking large amounts of alcohol to numb the pain and get through day to day versus facing that pain head on, finding ways to incorporate it into your story and becoming a stronger person because of it. I love this quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I'm not exactly sure who said it first, but your scars don't define you. They just tell the story of how far you've come. And that's what resilience is. It doesn't matter the scars you've had in the past or how deep or big or ugly. It doesn't matter any of that, because what it is really is it's your beautiful story about how you've overcome all this stress and anxieties and worries of the job and the world and be able to be the beautiful nurse you truly are. Make sure you stay till the end because you're not going to want to miss any of these 5 steps, but especially number 5. Secret number 1, resilient nurses focus on what they can control. A lot of things happen in this world that we have absolutely no control over. There's car accidents, there's the weather, if the doctor will call you back in time, a pandemic, we know that one well. When humans focus on what we can't control, we feel small and frustrated, helpless and hopeless. We give all of our options and power over to the invisible external force. And the only thing that does is keep you stuck and angry at the world. You end up succumbing to the negativity. Problems seem too big. No one listens to me. Nothing I do matters. Leaders don't care. That's not a fun state to be, but I know it's really easy to fall into that cycle. On the other hand, when you focus on what you can control, it narrows down the overwhelming problem to a more manageable level. You're not ignoring the gravity of the problem, but your thought process becomes more positive and it energizes you as you see the potential light at the end of the tunnel. There are things I can do to make it better. I can be a catalyst for change. I can make a plan. I can learn X, Y, Z. My voice does matter. You choose which framework you want to tackle your problems with. It takes a lot of practice to tease out what can I control, what can I control, because sometimes it gets kind of mixed up in your brain. But over time, that sorting process gets easier and it'll allow you to better focus on what you can control. Secret of resilient nursing number 2, give yourself grace. Nurses have no problem being gracious and compassionate toward others, but we are extremely hard on ourselves. We have this heightened sense of responsibility at work because, rightfully so, we are responsible for our patients, and every decision we make potentially impacts them and their care. But on the other hand, we definitely take it to the extreme. We feel guilty even when we do everything right. You notice the signs that a patient's deteriorating, you call the doctors, you get the right orders and treatment, and they still pass away or end up going to ICU. Nurses will replay over and over in their minds, asking themselves, what did I miss? What did I do wrong? We feel guilty. We even feel guilty when we've been handling big issues all day. I mean, patients have been super sick and you're trying to keep them stable, and doctors are doing this and procedures and surgeries. You're handling all these big things with patient care. You're running around like crazy, but you forgot that one cup of ice for that one patient. Man, you start kicking yourself. Nurses are humans. No matter how superhuman we may seem or feel, we cannot prevent every patient death. We can only be in one place at one time. It's impressive that as nurses, we can stay sane with the amount of information we process. And it's no wonder we forget the small things. That doesn't make you a bad nurse. It makes you human. So instead of dwelling on what went wrong or could have gone wrong and just torturing yourself with that replay in your head, trying to find an answer, focus on what you did right. I guarantee you that you did at least 3 things right that day. Focus on the good, learn from the bad, and please give yourself grace. Secret of resilient nurses number 3 is to celebrate your successes and allow yourself to grieve the losses. It's so hard for nurses to find the time to react emotionally to any situation at work, good or bad. When a patient passes away or has an adverse outcome, we have to compose ourselves and go on to the next patient. We can't be clouded by negative emotions because it's distracting, and distractions can lead to mistakes, and mistakes could be harmful for patients when you're a nurse. Distraction can be a similar problem with positive emotions. You get a heartbeat back after coding a patient, and it's on to the next who has been waiting for their jello and think that that's the highest priority on your list. So you're probably thinking right now, that's right, Elise, how can we have time to celebrate our wins and grieve our losses without sacrificing even more of our bodily needs and time with our families? Well, I'm glad you asked. You take both of those issues and you combine them. After you can safely step away from an event, use a little bit of time to address your bodily needs and take a breath to celebrate the win or grieve the loss. Take that bathroom break and use the peace of being alone in a stall to collect your thoughts. Step off the unit for 5 minutes. That way you can sit, drink a glass of water, and just reflect on how you helped somebody in need. Talk about it. I'm not saying blast it all over Facebook because we all know HIPAA, but all nurses have those moments where you're already in the med room with another nurse and you just vent about something rude that a patient said. You're like, can you believe he just said that? Venting that frustration is healthy as long as it's done in a secure setting. It should be work culture to express all the other emotions we feel as well, not just that frustration with your rude patient. If you had a patient deteriorate, find a coworker who you trust. You may be beating yourself up over the situation, trying to find answers yourselves, but a healthy coworker is great at being objective. They will point out what you did right and what you had no control over. If you keep everything bottled up, eventually that dam's going to burst and it'll be over something ridiculously simple like I lost my pen. Talk about our wins. Have you ever gotten that 18 gauge IV in a heart stick patient after 4 other nurses tried? It's okay to strut your stuff. I'd high five you. You noticed something was wrong and sprung into action to help a patient and prevent a code. That deserves a high five too. Celebrate your wins. Celebrate your coworkers' wins. Allow yourself and your coworkers to grieve, even if it's just for a minute. Acknowledging these moments is key to promoting resilience. Secret number 4 is self-care. I know you might have just rolled your eyes at me. It may seem like a simple answer, but if we're honest with each other, it is one of the hardest things to get a nurse to do. Nurses are constantly on the go. We are sacrificing our needs for our patients, and those sacrificial tendencies tend to bleed into our personal lives. Whether it's putting your kids first or you're caring for a sick relative, some nurses don't even have those types of responsibilities, but they'll make something up. Oh, massage is too expensive. I can't. Why get a pedicure if no one's going to see it? I would hike, but I'm on my feet so much at work, they're just tired. What excuses have you used to get out of doing self-care as a nurse? Nursing is so chaotic, guys. There's lights flashing and pumps beeping, alarms alarming, patients coding, admits discharged, doctors barking orders, charge nurse wants updates. When you don't do self-care regularly, there becomes this imbalance and the emotional chaos begins to build as you don't allow yourself to release the tension. High levels of chaos at home, pair that with high levels of chaos at work, you're gonna burn out. It's not if, it's when. So nurses who are more resilient maintain better self-care in order to keep that chaos in balance. And secret number 5, resilient nurses set and keep boundaries. Nursing is full of relationships. We have our patients, our coworkers, doctors, other disciplines, employers, family members, you name it. We have different levels of relationships based off of who it is. We have a different relationship with our patients than we do their family members because we can't always share with the family members what's going on with our patients unless that patient says it's okay. We have a different relationship with our patients than we do our coworkers. There are boundaries for a reason, and it's to protect yourself and it's to protect that relationship, whatever level it may be. I mentioned earlier that nurses constantly sacrifice themselves. We ignore bodily functions, stay overtime to chart, and keep all of our emotions bottled up. It's not our employer's job to set a boundary line for us. Nurses have to be the one to draw their own boundary lines in order to maintain a healthy relationship with work. So one way to do that is handing over your phone to another nurse at lunch. In most states, nurses are allowed to have a full uninterrupted meal break. And I emphasize allowed because you have to either accept it when it's offered or initiate it in order to benefit from it. Another way is that nurses need to say no. No does not mean you don't care or you're a horrible person. You can say no to staying overtime. You can say no when they ask you to come in on your day off. You can say no to extracurricular projects or committees. Don't get me wrong. It is great to be involved at work if your unit has committees or things like that for project improvement. If you have the time and the desire, jump in and do it. Set a term limit for yourself and get involved. There's nothing wrong with picking up extra shifts because that can be great for your bank account if you need it. But when you have a hard time saying no, work can take advantage of your compassion. So when you say yes, make sure it's on your terms. And I'll give you a quick example of how you can set your own terms. One of my jobs, they were desperate for staff. It was during the pandemic. And so we were constantly getting texted that we need extra, offering overtime. Work needed nurses to come in that night to work night shift. But I was scheduled to work the next day. But for me, I then had 5 days off after that shift. So my thought was, if they would allow me to take the night shift instead of my day shift, I would be able to start my vacation sooner. So I told my director that I would pick up tonight for overtime instead of coming in tomorrow. So I told my director that I would pick up tonight instead of coming in tomorrow and still get knock shift differential and overtime pay for those 12 hours, even though I technically wasn't picking up an extra shift. I was still only working 36 hours that week. So those are my terms. And since they didn't have any takers for the shift besides me, they agreed. Now, work may not always accept your terms, but you never know if you don't ask. Another way to set boundaries as nurses is that we should call off sick and not feel guilty. One time I had a coworker who felt bad for calling off sick, so she came to work with the flu, guys, sniffling, occasional trips to the toilet to throw up, like the whole shebang. She got myself and a couple of our coworkers sick. And so then we were in the same position of feeling bad for calling out and leaving our unit even more short-staffed, but we were miserable. You have to choose between feeling guilty and then being miserable at work, or feeling miserable at home but healing and getting better. The latter is actually better, guys. So please call off when you are sick and don't feel guilty. And also, when you need those mental health days, don't feel guilty calling out then either. Please take care of yourself, listen to your body. And in the long run, it's actually better for your patients and your coworkers if you draw the line. So to recap, guys, the 5 secrets of resilient nurses are focusing on what you can control, give yourself grace, allow for celebration and grieving, please do self-care, and set your boundaries. Those are the 5 secrets to resilient nurses. I have a little extra coming in store for you guys. I'm going to share with you the big way that you're already using these secrets without even knowing it. So stay tuned for our next episode. Tell me what your favorite secret was and why down in the comments. I want to hear what you think. If you have more secrets of resilient nursing, I would love to hear, and share them with me below.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes.